Can you tell us about your son's passing? If not, I completely understand. I got you. I can tell it. My husband at the time and I had tried for 4 years to get pregnant, and nothing worked, so I underwent a bunch of fertility treatments. Those did not work. We did IUIs. I did so much different medications and stuff trying to get pregnant. The fertility clinic came back to me and told me that there was a trial that they were doing of a medication that Canada was using to get women pregnant, and it would be a blind study, so I didn't know if I was getting the placebo or the actual medication, and they were interested to know if I was willing to try it out to see if I could get pregnant that way. So I tried it out and got pregnant. I got the medication. So everything was great during my pregnancy until I hit 28 weeks. Then I started going into preterm labor. The doctor kept stopping my labor. Continued to stop my labor. I was going into labor once a week, sometimes twice a week, and he kept stopping it. And I kept telling him, the baby's ready to come. The baby's ready to come. I don't care if he has to be in NICU for 32 weeks. The baby's ready to come. The doctor would not listen to me. I was on my hands and knees in labor and delivery, actively pushing. And I was dilated, not to 10, but I was dilated to, I think, about 4, I think. And was telling them the baby is coming, and they stopped it again. At 32 weeks pregnant, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning on the nose because I felt my son kick me hard, so I figured he was hungry. So I went and got some breakfast. Then I realized he wasn't kicking or moving like he usually did. I called the fertility clinic, and they said, and actually I called my OBGYN, and they said to lay on my left-hand side and count kicks for an hour. After 45 minutes, they called me back, and they said, how many kicks did you feel? And I said, none. They said, get in here now. So I went in, they did a Doppler, and they did an ultrasound, and the doctor turned and looked at me, and I kid you not, said, I'm sorry, your son is no longer with us. But he didn't say it that nicely. He said the DEAD word. Sorry, your son is DEAD. Told me to go home and wait for an OR to open and that he would call me. I remember walking to my car, getting in my car, calling my dad, and bawling my eyes out to my dad, and he told me just get home and wait for the doctor to call me. So I went home. I remember calling the prison up because my husband worked at the prison at the time, and I got the control room sergeant on the phone, and I said I need to speak to my husband, and she said, oh my God, are you having the baby? And I started screaming at her that the baby was DEAD. She goes, you're lying to me. This isn't funny. Stop joking. I said, I'm not joking. I am dead serious. Send my husband home now. I remember sitting on my couch and not knowing what to do. I guess I had called some other people and I don't remember it. But I remember my front door opening and just officer after officer after officer began entering my house and sitting with me. And then finally my husband came home and we both broke down. And then I got the phone call to go to the hospital, and I went to the hospital. When we showed up at the hospital, there was 2 officers standing next to the entry doors. And I was like, I've never seen officers standing at the entry door before. That's weird. And my husband drops me off at the door. The other officers were getting out of their vehicles and meeting me. And we go to walk in, and both the officers saluted me. And I realized it was part of the final salute. And I lost it. I went and checked in, and I got up to my room, and it was full of officers, not just corrections officers, but there was police officers there, deputy sheriffs, and the highway patrolmen were at the hospital with me. And I went in for surgery, came out for surgery, and they were all lining the hallway. And they all saluted me, both going to the OR and coming back from the OR. They saluted me, and that was the final salute for my son. I ended up being surrounded by officers, especially corrections officers, for my entire stay in the hospital. I always had an officer standing at my door or next to my bed with me the entire time. They performed an autopsy on my son and everything came back normal. The doctor came back and said he was a perfectly healthy baby boy. They're like, we don't know what happened. There was nothing wrong with him. So I never found out what happened to my son. All I know is when we got his certificate of no longer being with us, it said cause of death, mother. And I lost my ever-loving mind. I called him up and I said, you will change this immediately. You will not have me as his cause of death. And I lost it on him. And they did change it to, what was it? Maternal medical issues, because I have a blood clotting disorder, and they thought that had something to do with it. And they also put on there that I was on fertility medication, and that could have done it. But I never got an answer as to why he passed. I just realized that my little baby was needed for something else. I found out afterwards I was never going to have another child. I had to have surgery to sterilize me to make sure that I would never have another child, because it was either going to unalive me or unalive the baby. Because a week after my son passed, I almost passed myself by having multiple blood clots in my lungs related to the surgery that I had to deliver my son. So I can't have any kids, but I do have the most amount of nieces and nephews probably ever. And I love each and every one of them, and they range from being babies to being in their 30s. But I still have nieces and nephews all over the place that call me Aunt Cindy and refer to me as their aunt, or will call me up and say, I need aunt advice. So I take that role seriously, and I love it. And I realize I was meant to mother, just not to be a mother. But I am a mother, because I do have a son, my little angel baby. And by the way, his name was Drake. And if you're interested in the full story and everything that I went through from conception to even after my son passed, I wrote a book, and it's called Lost Lambs, Dealing with Child Loss. And you can find it on the Zon. But it's the entire story of my son and the loss and how I dealt with it afterwards. You can find it on the Zon. Lost Lambs, Dealing with Child Loss.